Amar'e Stoudemire was dynamite on the court as he was a power forward slash center who had the size and strength to go along with quickness, creating a rare combo while also having the mentality of I'm going to tear the rim off every dunk attempt I get. Always attacking the opponent he faced, playing fearless throughout his entire career, with Stoudmire going on to create one of the most lethal duos in NBA history, with him and Steve Nash as a part of the Suns' 7 seconds or less offense, outpacing teams and being deadly in the pick and roll together. Though most remember Stoudmire for his pick and rolls, he could also post up often, facing players up and scoring however he pleased, and was a good mid-range shooter as well, having the ability to pick and pop with Nash, leading Stoudmire becoming a 6-time NBA All-Star, 5-time All-NBA player, and Rookie of the Year, all while helping the Suns play winning basketball, making a couple of conference finals, before heading to the Knicks, continuing his elite form before injuries caught up to him to end his career. This is a look back on Amar'e Stoudemire's career. Amar'e Stoudemire was born in Lake Wales, Florida, growing up under tough conditions as his dad would pass away at the age of 12 and his mom was in and out of prison regularly. He would move up to New York for a bit before moving back to Lake Wales throughout all the tumultuous times. Stoudemire did not pick up the game of basketball until the age of 14, after his size had made people convince him to play. Amar'e Stoudemire caught on quickly despite the late start, having natural gifts you could not teach with his size and athleticism. Starting his high school career at Lake Wales High School, playing well his freshman season. However, off the court, he was around the wrong group of people and found himself becoming academically ineligible. Stoudemire next season would decide to transfer to Mount Zion in North Carolina to get away from all of the issues and focus on his game and academics. He stayed there for a bit before he started to miss home and transferred back to Florida to West Orange High School in Winter Garden, where Stoudemire would find himself academically ineligible again to play basketball after his Mount Zion transcripts did not hold up, before transferring again for his senior year to play for Cypress Creek Hill High School in Orlando, Florida. And Amar'e Stoudemire's senior year would be dominant, averaging 29.1 points, 15 rebounds, 6.1 blocks, and 2.1 steals, helping him pick up all the accolades you can think of, being Florida Mr. Basketball, McDonald's All-American, and ended up being the #1 recruit in the nation. Initially, it looked like Amar'e Stoudemire was going to go on to play his college ball, specifically at the University of Memphis, but being the top prospect, he was drawing NBA interest and decided to enter his name into the NBA draft straight out of high school. Stoudemire had quickly become a top NBA draft prospect, showcasing his athleticism and force in workouts, with teams also realizing he had only been playing for a short period of time and the sky seemed to be the limit if he honed in on his skills. And in the 2002 NBA draft, with the 9th overall pick, Amar'e Stoudemire was selected by the Phoenix Suns. Stoudemire was joining a Suns team with playoff aspirations behind Shawn Marion, Stephon Marbury, Penny Hardaway, and Joe Johnson. Amar'e Stoudemire, despite being young, instantly found success in the NBA, becoming the team's starting power forward, averaging 13.5 points and 8.8 rebounds, which was enough for him to make the All-Rookie First Team and win Rookie of the Year, becoming the first player drafted straight out of high school to win the award. All the while, he had helped the Suns make it into the NBA playoffs after going 44-38, getting the 8th seed. Round 1 brought the San Antonio Spurs in the first year of its new trio in Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and a rookie Manu Ginobili. Game 1 in San Antonio was close, as Stoudemire was taking no time to adjust to the playoffs, having 24 points and 9 rebounds, and the Suns found themselves in a close game, trailing by 3 late, and would force overtime as Amar'e Stoudemire hit a banked-in 3 with 7.9 seconds left. In overtime, the Suns trailed again late, this time by 2, as Tim Duncan went to the line to seal the deal, but he missed his free throw, creating a chance, which Marbury capitalized on, running up the court, hitting a running 3 at the buzzer to steal Game 1. The Spurs the following 2 games would look like the 1 seed, winning them behind a big game from Duncan and then Tony Parker. Game 4, with the Suns needing to win at home, found themselves in another close one late into the game, as Stoudemire fouled out and Jake Voskuhl stepped into the game. And Voskuhl would come in clutch for the team, playing the role of the hero, hitting a game winner, tying the series up at 2-2. Game 5 went back to San Antonio, where the Spurs won as Malik Rose came off the bench to lead the way. Game 6, the Spurs would finish off the Suns late as Duncan went for a triple-double, winning the Spurs the series. The Suns had impressed despite the defeat, showing they would be a team to reckon with going forward, with Amar'e Stoudemire as a focal point as he played well over the series against Duncan, averaging 14.2 points and 7.8 rebounds. In the offseason, the Suns improved the team long-term, adding Leandro Barbosa after a draft day trade. The Suns entered the next season with a new elevated expectations to compete, and they would do the opposite to start the year, struggling to get things going, with the Suns deciding to mix things up, trading away Stephon Marbury and Penny Hardaway. After the moves, Amar'e Stoudemire became the go-to guy, already having a breakout season prior, ending the year averaging 20.6 points and 9 rebounds. However, he battled some injuries, only playing in 55 games. Stoudemire, when healthy, had also set a franchise record this year for blocks in a quarter with 6 and in a game with 10. The Suns, after the rough start and Amar'e Stoudemire missing time, ended the year at 29 and 53, missing the playoffs. In the offseason, Amar'e Stoudemire would make the 2004 USA Olympic team. Amari found himself hardly playing though, averaging 6.8 minutes as he got a front row seat to one of the most disappointing USA teams in history, as they would drop games and fail to reach the gold medal game, getting upset by Argentina with Manu Ginobili and Luis Scola. Stoudemire returned home with the bronze medal and found himself joining a new-look Suns team. The Suns had added future Hall of Famer in Steve Nash in free agency, as well as a great three-point shooter in Quentin Richardson. Mike D'Antoni would also have the reins for the first time for a full year in charge of the Suns. The Suns would change the game of basketball this season with its 7 seconds or less offense, deciding to spread the floor with its shooters and playing a fast tempo that favored Steve Nash, while going small, playing Amar'e Stoudemire at center, all of which were new concepts. Amar'e Stoudemire, like most of the team, found success complementing Nash, especially in the pick and roll, with Stoudemire going on to average 26 points and 8.9 rebounds. Stoudemire would make an All-NBA second team and his first All-Star game as a result, and even competed in the dunk contest, arguably having the best dunk of the night, with Steve Nash assisting him via his head. The individual highlight for Amar'e Stoudemire this year, on top of everything else, was he set his career high going for 50 points against Portland. The 7 seconds or less Suns had taken the NBA by storm this year, going 62-20, entering the playoffs as the 1 seed. Round 1, the Suns continued their dominant season form, sweeping Pau Gasol and the Grizzlies, as Stoudemire led the way in scoring throughout the series, in particular with big games in Game 2 with 34 and Game 3 with 30. Round 2, the Suns faced the Dallas Mavericks, headed by Dirk Nowitzki, Josh Howard, and Michael Finley. Stoudemire got the Suns off and rolling Game 1, going for 40 points and grabbing 16 rebounds, leading the team to a victory. Game 2, Stoudemire continued his form, going for 30 points and 16 rebounds. The Suns would drop the game, though, late, with Finley leading the Mavs. Game 3, Phoenix would win again behind Stoudemire as he was still killing the Mavericks, going for 37 points and 14 rebounds. Game 4, Amar'e Stoudemire would finally cool off and the Mavericks won, tying the series up. The rest of the series would be all Phoenix as Stoudemire carried the way in Game 5 with 33 points and 18 rebounds, and then Game 6 was all Nash and Marion advancing on to the Western Conference Finals to play the San Antonio Spurs, where the dominant season run would come to an end in a gentleman's sweep as the trio of Duncan, Parker, and Ginobili were too much to handle, with the experience of the Spurs and the Suns missing Joe Johnson with an injury for parts affected the series the most. Amar'e Stoudemire played phenomenal over the series despite it being a quick one, as he led every single game in scoring, as in Game 1 he had 41, Game 2 he had 37, Game 3 he had 34, Game 4 he had 31, and Game 5 he had 42. Over the postseason, Amar'e Stoudemire ended up averaging 29.9 points and 10.7 rebounds. In the offseason, after the exit to the Spurs, the Suns surprisingly let Joe Johnson walk in free agency after signing Raja Bell, and had traded away Quentin Richardson, never quite playing at the same speed moving forward as they had afterwards. Still, expectations were high entering the next season. Before in the preseason, Amar'e Stoudemire had knee cartilage damage and needed microfracture surgery. Stoudemire missed the first part of the season before coming back 3 games, clearly looking as he was forced to return early and then suffering a setback ending his season. Amar'e Stoudemire in the 3 games he played averaged 8.7 points and 5.3 rebounds. Without Stoudemire, the Suns were still thriving behind Nash, who was in MVP form, leading the team to a 54-28 record in the Western Conference Finals before falling to the Mavericks, creating a big what-if Amar'e Stoudemire wasn't rushed back initially from his surgery, as they would have most likely been in the NBA Finals and could have won it. Next year, Amar'e Stoudemire, coming off the injury, found his form back quickly, averaging 20.4 points and 9.6 rebounds, making it back to the NBA All-Star game, and ended up the season making All-NBA first team, coming off a microfracture surgery the other season. With Stoudemire back, the Suns went 61-21, making the playoffs as the 2 seed, facing the Los Angeles Lakers round 1 with Kobe Bryant and Lamar Odom. Nash and Stoudemire would lead the Suns as they handled the Lakers in 5 games, with Stoudemire leading the way in rebounds and points over the series, with his best individual game being a 27.21 rebound Game 4. Round 2 brought the Suns to an all-too-common playoff foe in the San Antonio Spurs again. The series would be split after the first 4 games, with Stoudemire and Duncan battling, yet late in Game 4 as the Suns were going on to win, Robert Horry took a cheap shot on Steve Nash, sparking an altercation, in which Stoudemire left the bench to take part in, getting suspended for the following game. The Suns without Stoudemire in Game 5 in Phoenix kept it close, but ultimately lost late, failing to tie it up at the buzzers, seeing home court advantage gone. Game 6, Amar'e Stoudemire returned from a suspension to play great, going for 38 points, but it was not enough as the Spurs, riding their home fans with Parker and Duncan, won the game in the series 4-2. Stoudemire had put together a solid playoff run, but it would all be forgotten as he cost the Suns getting suspended, which ultimately sent his team home. Amar'e Stoudemire over the playoffs averaged 25.3 points and 12.1 rebounds. Next season, Stoudemire continued his great form from the year prior, averaging 25.2 points and 9.1 rebounds, making the All-Star team and All-NBA second team again, with Stoudemire finding himself moving back to the power forward position mid-year after the Suns had traded away Shawn Marion for Shaquille O'Neal. The Suns without Marion and having Shaq were a slower-paced team, not playing as well, with the Suns going 55-27 entering the playoffs as a 6th seed, where of course round 1 the Suns met the San Antonio Spurs. Game 1, the Suns would take a big lead early, but the Spurs creeped back into the game, forcing it to go to overtime. The Suns looked like they were going to win the game, having the ball up 3, before Amar'e Stoudemire fouled out on a charge call with 12.6 seconds remaining. In the following possession, the Spurs capitalized as Tim Duncan would hit a 3-pointer, sending it to double overtime, where the Spurs would win in the second overtime as Manu Ginobili hit a game winner with 1.8 seconds remaining. After Game 1, the Suns could never seem to recover, losing the series via a gentleman's sweep. Stoudemire over the series averaged 23.2 points and 9 rebounds. Entering next season, the Suns were faltering under new coaching after letting go of Mike D'Antoni in the offseason. The Suns would try to improve things, trading away Raja Bell and Boris Diaw for Jason Richardson. Meanwhile, Stoudemire was still playing well despite the team not as much, averaging 21.4 points, 8.1 rebounds, making it into the All-Star team again in 53 games this season, as not long after All-Star break, Amar'e Stoudemire would suffer a detached retina in a game and would miss the rest of the season as a result, and needed to play the rest of his career moving forward with protective eyewear. Without Stoudemire for the second half of this year, the Suns went 46-36, missing the playoffs. In the offseason, after the Shaquille O'Neal experiment had failed, the team traded him away to Cleveland, as Amar'e Stoudemire was returning back healthy for next year. Stoudemire returned back to form upon injury to average 23.1 points and 8.9 rebounds, making another All-Star team and All-NBA second team, as he helped the Suns back to the playoffs after going 54-28, making them as a 3 seed, meeting the Portland Trail Blazers round 1 with LaMarcus Aldridge and Andre Miller. The Suns dropped Game 1 of the series before waking up the next 2 games as Jason Richardson led the way. The Blazers pulled one back, tying up the series as Aldridge outplayed Stoudemire, before the Suns went on to close out the series, winning the next 2 games as Richardson continued his strong form over the series, sending Phoenix into round 2, to face none other than the San Antonio Spurs, where the Suns would finally get past the Spurs, sweeping them out of the playoffs as they would consistently get out in the break and play fast, countering San Antonio's style of play, with Stoudmire closing out the series in Game 4 with a game-high 29 points. The Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference Finals met the Los Angeles Lakers with a dynamic duo of Kobe Bryant and Pau Gasol. The Lakers jumped out winning the first 2 games of the series in LA before it shifted back to Phoenix, where the Suns tied the series back up as Stoudmire proved to be a struggle to stop, going for 42 points and 11 rebounds Game 3 and 21 points Game 4. Game 5 was a close one late as the Suns were rallying from down 18, but the Lakers held the lead late by 3 with 20 seconds left as the Suns came down the floor, proceeding to miss several three-point attempts to tie the game up before Jason Richardson came through banking in a 3 with 3.5 seconds left, which was still enough time for the Lakers to win it. The Suns played great defense on the initial look, forcing Kobe to airball his shot, but the Suns did not block out Ron Artest, who crashed hard, hitting the game winner. Game 6 started off close before a big second and third quarter by LA became insurmountable, sending the Phoenix Suns home. Stoudmire was a key figure over the run to the Western Conference Finals, averaging 22.2 points and 6.6 rebounds. In the offseason, Amar'e Stoudemire was a free agent, and his tenure with the Phoenix Suns had come to an end. Amar'e Stoudemire signed a contract joining the New York Knicks. Even though he had wanted to return to Phoenix, the Knicks had offered more. Upon signing with the Knicks, Stoudemire initially made the bold claim the Knicks are back, as they had gone through several years prior of having poor team success. Amar'e Stoudemire, the main man in New York, averaged 25.3 points and 8.2 rebounds, making it into the All-Star team and becoming second-team All-NBA again. The Knicks, clicking with Stoudemire, knew they had become a viable destination for players to go, and would make a blockbuster trade mid-season trading for Carmelo Anthony. Anthony and Stoudemire formed a 1-2 punch, helping the Knicks make it back into the playoffs, going 42-40, getting the 6th seed. They would not be in the playoffs for very long, though, as they got swept out by Boston Celtics with its core of Kevin Garnett, Rajon Rondo, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce. And a big reason for the swift exit was the fact that Stoudemire was not at 100% playing through a bad back, averaging 14.5 points and 7.8 rebounds in the series. Entering next season, the Knicks had added Tyson Chandler to bolster the team's playoff hopes. However, the season would not start right away as there was a lockout, and when it did, Stoudemire was not in his normal shape, seeing a dip in his form. What also hurt his production was the passing of his brother and his back providing issues. Amar'e Stoudemire, as a result, averaged 17.5 points and 7.8 rebounds. The Knicks in general this season dealt with a lot of injuries quite frequently, but got a boost from Jeremy Lin in the whole Linsanity saga when most of the team was out injured, before players returned and the Knicks would go 36-30, making the playoffs the 7th seed to face the Miami Heat with its big 3 of LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. The Heat handled the Knicks this series from start to finish, winning via a gentleman's sweep, proving to be the more talented team. Stoudemire this series is most remembered for his self-inflicted injury to his left hand after punching a fire extinguisher in the visitor team's locker room. The wound required stitches to mend, and he'd miss a game, hurting the underdogs' Knicks' chances even further. In the 4 games Amar'e Stoudemire played over the series, he had averaged 15.3 points and 6.5 rebounds. In the offseason, the Knicks would lose Lin after his breakout year in free agency, not being able to afford him, and Anthony was not quite meshing with him. The Knicks still looked on the up and up, though, behind Carmelo. However, for Amar'e Stoudemire, it would be a different story, struggling with a knee injury and having to miss most of the year, and even spent time in the G League rehabbing. Amar'e Stoudemire, when he came back, would come off the bench for the first time in his career for 29 games to average 14.2 points and 5 rebounds. Even with Stoudemire gone, the Knicks behind Carmelo were playing well, going 54-28, making the playoffs to the 2 seed, where they would get past the aging Boston Celtics team round 1 with Pierce and Garnett, as Stoudemire missed the series with injury. Round 2 brought the Indiana Pacers with Paul George, Roy Hibbert, David West, George Hill, and Lance Stevenson. Stoudemire would return Game 3 this series as it was tied up 1-1. The Knicks would go on to drop Game 3 as Hibbert led the way for Indiana, then lost Game 4 as George Hill got hot. The Knicks would pull one back Game 5 after a big performance from Carmelo Anthony, but it was all too late as the Pacers went on to win Game 6 behind a well-rounded team performance. With that being the emphasis of the series, as the Knicks seemed to only have Anthony, as the Pacers had a well-balanced team. Stoudmire, in the 4 games he played, looked like a shell of himself this postseason and not fully recovered, averaging 3.8 points and 2.3 rebounds. Amar'e Stoudemire next season had started off the bench before climbing his way back into the starting lineup, averaging 11.9 points and 4.9 rebounds over 65 games. The return of Stoudemire was helpful to the team's success. However, the Knicks were hurting, missing Tyson Chandler with injury a decent portion of the season, and it ended up going 37-45, missing the playoffs. Entering next season, the Knicks continued their downward slide as they traded away Chandler in the offseason, and the team was injury-riddled. Before mid-season, the Knicks decided to waive Stoudemire as they were not going to be competing anymore, and no one was willing to trade for Stoudemire's large contract. Amar'e Stoudemire would go on to sign for the Dallas Mavericks for the rest of the season. Stoudemire was joining a Mavs team looking to make a playoff push behind an aging Dirk Nowitzki, Monte Ellis, Chandler Parsons, and Tyson Chandler. Amari stepped into the backup power forward role for Dirk, averaging 11.5 points and 5.6 rebounds in 59 games this season between New York and Dallas. Stoudemire had helped Dallas in the year, going 50-32, making the playoffs the 7th seed. Round 1 of the playoffs brought the Houston Rockets with James Harden and Dwight Howard, in a series that became very lopsided rather quickly as Harden cooked the Mavericks and Chandler Parsons missed time with injury, resulting in a gentleman's sweep for the Rockets. Stoudemire over the series took on a smaller role off the bench, averaging 7.8 points and 3.2 rebounds. In the offseason, Amar'e Stoudemire was a free agent and he would sign for the Miami Heat. Stoudemire was joining a Heat team that was looking to bounce back after losing LeBron, with the team being led by Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Goran Dragic, and Hassan Whiteside. Amari found himself splitting time starting and coming off the bench as the Heat dealt with injuries, playing in 52 games, averaging 5.8 points and 4.3 rebounds, helping the Heat go 48-34, making the playoffs as the 3 seed. The Heat would be entering them, though, without Chris Bosh as he was dealing with health issues. Round 1 brought the Charlotte Hornets with Kemba Walker and Al Jefferson. This series would be a tight one as it would go to a Game 7 as Kemba Walker was almost single-handedly keeping the Hornets in the series, before the Heat would put away the Hornets in a blow-up behind Dragic, with the big factor this series being Whiteside being able to slow down Jefferson's offensive production. Round 2, the Heat matched up against the Toronto Raptors with Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan. The Heat would find themselves in an early hole, going down 2-1 as they had lost Whiteside to injury for the rest of the series early in the game. Without Whiteside, the Heat were thought to be going home quickly, but they would rally behind Dwayne Wade and Goran Dragic, winning 2 of the next 3 games to force a Game 7, where the Heat rally would die off as the Raptors blew them out, sending Miami home in Game 7. Amar'e Stoudemire played a similar role over the playoffs to that which he did in the regular season, averaging 3.3 points and 1.4 rebounds. After this season, Amar'e Stoudemire would decide to retire from the NBA, signing a contract with the Knicks to retire as a Knick. Though he was done playing in the NBA, Stoudemire was not done playing basketball, with Amar'e Stoudemire going on to join Hapoel Jerusalem, a team in which he co-owned in the Israeli Basketball League. Stoudemire would play well with the team, earning all Euro Cup second-team honors for the 2016-17 season, as well as the Israeli Basketball Premier League All-Star honors, and helped Hapoel Jerusalem win the 2016-17 Israeli Basketball Super League, then decided to retire, joining the Big 3 League for a short period of time, and then decided to come out of retirement to return back to Jerusalem again, where he'd thrive again at times on the court, being named a Champions League Team of the Week member once, and being named Israeli Premier League Player of the Month. Then he would leave the team, going on to join the Fujian Sturgeons in the Chinese Basketball Association the following season for 11 games, before Stoudemire left the team and would again return to Israel to play basketball, but this time for Maccabi Tel Aviv, where he would help Maccabi Tel Aviv win the championship while earning Israeli Basketball Premier League Finals MVP, excelling in the championship, seeming to end his playing career afterwards as he would go on to be a part of the Brooklyn Nets coaching staff from 2020 to 2022. Amar'e Stoudemire had ended his NBA career playing 14 years in the league, averaging 18.9 points and 7.8 rebounds. Stoudemire will be remembered as an electric player with his athleticism and size, slamming the ball with a ferociousness, being the perfect fit in Phoenix alongside Steve Nash in the pick-and-roll game, becoming a 6-time All-Star and 5-time All-NBA and the Rookie of the Year. dominating the competition to be one of the best power forwards and centers in the game, helping the Suns reach a pair of Western Conference Finals trips, before joining the New York Knicks looking like a superstar initially still, until injuries slowed Stoudmire down because nothing else was going to. Yet somehow he was still often overlooked when people talk about the great bigs of the 2000s. Thanks for watching this video on Amar'e Stoudemire's career. If you want to see any other videos about any other random players, leave it in the comments below and I may or may not decide to do them. Who knows? Thanks again for watching. This has been Skid Denver.